In any case, whether the result of negligence or not, this latest tragedy of violence in the Arab-Israeli sector does follow renewed focus on the issue. Cabinet ministers unveiling the outline for Operation Sword Strike earlier this month.
אישרתי את התוכנית הלאומית למיגור הפשיעה במגזר הערבי, וברגעים אלה ממש אנחנו משלימים את מבצע מכת חרב במעל 200 יעדים ברחבי הארץ לתפיסת כלי נשק בלתי חוקיים, מערערה וחורה ורהט בדרום ועד שפרעם, כפר כנא וכפרים בצפון. שוטרי ולוחמי ולוחמות משטרת ישראל פשטו בו זמנית במאות מקומות עם הצלחה גדולה. אבל זאת רק ההתחלה. זאת רק ההתחלה. המבחן שלנו הוא לא בהתחלה, אלא בעקביות, בנחישות, למגר ולעקור את הפשע, להוציא ולאסוף את כלי הנשק, כדי לאפשר לילדה מהמגזר הערבי ללמוד לבגרות בלי שיורים ברחוב בחוץ.
So what comes next in the battle against violence in the Arab-Israeli sector? Joining me with more, ILTV reporter Asaf Nissan. Asaf, thanks so much for joining us. Now tell me more about Operation Sword Strike and what it includes.
Good afternoon, Aaron. First of all, always great to be here. I want to start actually with the personal condolences also to Sali Ismail's family and actually his cousin Fadi Ismail, who actually is one of our experts who comes on the show once a week throughout the month. It's a horrible and painful strike that happened to the family. But we are talking about a plan that's been in motion for years, but we're now finally seeing a basis coming in, which includes increased presence in towns and highways. We're talking about strengthening the intelligence and investigation of the police. We're talking about a local crime anti-crime task force, increasing budgets. We're talking about basically whatever's needed finally to fund the end of this horrible plague that's been plaguing the Arab sector for many, many years.
All right, now, this is, as I mentioned before, a long, ongoing issue. Former Prime Minister Netanyahu's administration often trying to tackle it. How is this plan setting itself apart? How is this any different than previous initiatives?
Well, I think the biggest change between Netanyahu and Bennett's plans are pretty much that Bennett has a much more detailed plan that we see rather than Netanyahu's. Netanyahu's plan was financially set. He put aside 100 million shekel, especially for this issue, and tried to bring on former police captain to take control of it. But at the end of the day, it was mainly a lot of noise, a lot of like rash decisions in the background. It's the first time for a long time that we're seeing an organized plan that literally is going to strike in the heart of the problem of illegal weaponry, of mass assassinations, of literally crime plaguing the entire Arab sector from the north to the south. And of course, it itself hurting the Israeli public. We cannot forget about that. Even in the north, we have places like Tuba Zangaria that are terrorizing the neighboring towns due to the fact that they have the illegal weaponry, have the capabilities to demand protection, to demand obedience, to demand a fair share of their cuts. I mean, all that is happening due to the fact there's no policing in those areas. And this is about time finally that a plan comes forth and finally takes care of this issue.
So what about the Arab-Israeli public? How are people on the ground receiving this news, this Operation Sword Strike? Is there more local involvement than there may have been previously? Why should they have more faith in this plan as opposed to previous ones?
Well, from what I'm seeing from the Arab public and the Arab-Israeli, none of them are tired as is from the crime. And they're as is trusting their own representatives. I mean, we see it with the Joint Arab List that's been losing power due to the fact that the most prominent voice that they had besides Ayman Odeh that was calling on the issue of crime in Europe is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So there wasn't a lot of trust in those people to begin with. But we do see Mansour Abbas, his party, Ram, which actually split off from the list and choose. I think that would be the more prominent voice they'll be leading the public. And yes, the public, of course, is hurt by it. But for the first time in many years, there's actually a well-set, organized program. I think maybe the Arab public would be much more open to accept it this time than before.
All right, so my final question, you mentioned Ayman Odeh, the leader of the Joint Arab List, which is now in the opposition, and Mansour Abbas's Ram party, which is now in the coalition, split off from the Arab List. Other than Ayman Odeh, no other senior Arab MK in the opposition even mentioned the murder of Sahar Ismail. Is the Arab representation in Knesset, is enough of the Arab representation in Knesset on board with this plan?
It's a good question, Aaron, and I would be remiss to say that they don't have enough of the support, despite the fact that the coalition party does agree with it, and some parts of the opposition do agree with it and say it's about time. I still fail to see the majority of the Joint Arab List and the Arab MKs, even in Meretz, even in the Labour Party. Where are they? I mean, those are in the coalition, and they're not speaking against the murder. They're not speaking on board with the plan. It's too soon to say that you see most of the majority of the Arab sector and its representatives supporting the plan, especially if you see that members of the coalition itself, who are, besides Rams, haven't vocalized any support or any condemnation on the fact that Sahar Ismail was murdered brutally like that, and nothing said yet by their part. You cannot see a more clear support by now. This is still too soon to be decided.
All right. Once again, our condolences go out to the family of Sahar Ismail. And Asaf, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.